All right, everybody, welcome back to another video. And today is October the 27th of 2024, and it's a Sunday. And yesterday, BYU played UCF. And how did that game go? Well, let's find out right after this. Hi everyone, welcome back to Just Justin. I am Justin, and yes, we'll be talking about the BYU Cougars against the University of Central Florida Knights. Okay, so last week, let's flash back to last week. Last week, UCF went into Iowa State, and they put up 354 rushing yards against the Cyclones. Okay, yeah, even though the Cyclones came out and won it, it was a very close game. UCF was giving them a run for their money. So how will BYU respond? Because their rushing defense has not been that good over the past few games. I mean, they let Oklahoma State into the game last week in Provo. And so BYU barely won that game. Last minute touchdown by the Cougs led them to victory. So here's a couple questions. Will BYU's defense step up and stop the rush and the run? And will the offense show up? Okay, those are the simple questions. Okay, so let's get into it. So yeah, it was a 1:30 p.m. kickoff time, Mountain Standard Time, 3:30 Eastern, and 2:30 Central Time if you want to go for it, 12:30 Pacific Time, okay? And it was a kickoff on ESPN, and BYU got the ball first. They went down, and Jake Retzlaff, he rambled for 29 yards for the touchdown, for the first touchdown of the game. So that put up BYU 7, okay? All right, so it was mostly a BYU show that first quarter, okay? So BYU, in that first quarter, they scored 7 points. They held onto the ball practically the whole entire quarter. They just used up the time. Okay, so the second quarter, BYU came out and kicked a field goal, making it 10-0. BYU came down the field again, and LJ Martin ran it in for a touchdown, making it 17-0. Okay, but then UCF started to show up and started to play, and they scored a touchdown. So it was 17-7. UCF kicked a field goal to make it 17-10. So it's a one-score game. But the quarter was not quite over yet. Retzlaff, I always say his name wrong, but he threw a ball to Roberts, and Roberts caught it, and he spun around, and he went and scored a touchdown, making it 24-10 at halftime. Okay, so right now, if we take a look at the questions that I posed earlier in the video, will BYU's defense step up and stop the rush? Yes, they actually did stop the rush. Okay, so going at a halftime, University of Central Florida, UCF, only had 115 yards rushing. Okay, 115 yards. Yeah, that's a lot, but compared to 354 last game, 115 yards rushing was pretty good, and BYU had 120. Okay, so that was really super good for BYU. Yeah, BYU defense is doing good. 115 yards rushing. I mean, first half, that's, you shouldn't be having that many yards, but UCF also gave up 120 for BYU. All right, so the offense was really super good. Retzlaff, he had a really good first half. Ran the ball really super good. He had some good throws. Now the second half, okay, came out, and UCF had the ball. Okay, so yeah, UCF had the ball, but they couldn't do very much. All right, and so BYU got it back, and they went down in the third quarter, and Chase Roberts, he caught another amazing catch at the 1-yard line, and that made it possible for BYU to score again, making it 31-10. There was a 31-yard field goal that was made by Farron, putting them up 34-10. Okay, and that's how the third quarter would end. The fourth quarter, with 10:25 remaining in the game, this kind of like really made me mad. Okay, but with 10:25 left in the game in the fourth quarter, UCF was on a roll. They put a new quarterback in, and that just changed the game. UCF went down and scored a touchdown. Okay. And they went for the 2-point conversion and made it. So made it 34-18. Okay, basically a 2-score game. I mean, the BYU's defense, what happened to the defense on that particular series? Yes, they benched the quarterback and they brought a new one in, and he ended up going down the field and scoring a touchdown. So all BYU had to do was just go down the field and just put the game out, but they could only score a field goal, making it 37-24. And that's how the game would end. Yes, BYU's defense did have 2 interceptions. They picked the quarterback off twice. BYU lost a fumble. So if we look at the statistics for this game, okay, total yards, BYU 480, UCF 379. Passing yards, BYU 228 to 198 for UCF. Rushing yards, 252 for BYU. Remember, UCF put up 354 against Iowa State, and they only had 181. Yards per play, BYU 6.4, UCF 6.9. First downs, BYU had 29 first downs to UCF's 18. Third down efficiencies, BYU was 7 for 15, and UCF was 2 for 10. Fourth down was 2 for 2, and UCF had 2 for 2 as well. So the total plays was 75 for BYU and only 56 for UCF. All right, so BYU punted the ball twice, UCF punted it 4 times. Penalties and the yardage. BYU had 8 penalties for 50 yards, and UCF had 5 penalties for 55 yards. Fumbles lost. BYU lost a fumble. UCF did not fumble the ball. Interceptions. BYU didn't throw in interceptions. UCF threw 2. Now, this right here, this is the kicker. Time of possession. BYU, 40 minutes and 28 seconds. And UCF, 19 minutes and 45 seconds. Okay? So basically, it was a good game. Okay? BYU came out and they stopped UCF the run. I mean, 181 yards rushing compared to 354 the previous week. Yes, BYU came out and they were determined to win this game, to put them up 8-0 going into their bye week. So I wish I could have gone to that game, but, you know, travel and stuff like that, apparently in my life, is not possible. But BYU has a point to make. They did jump up to number 9 in the polls this week, which is good. Notre Dame kind of leapfrogged them because it's Notre Dame, of course. Don't get me started on the polling and things like that. But BYU and UCF, that was a good game. However, BYU's defense stepped up and came out for 90% of the game. They allowed 2 touchdowns pretty quickly, but they stopped the rushing. They stopped the rushing. Not as good as, you know, having the less than 100 yards, but they didn't have 354 yards against them in rushing. All right, so BYU, really super good game yesterday. And now, so next week is bye week. The week after that, they play at Rice-Eccles Stadiums in Salt Lake City, Utah, against the Utes. Okay? So the Utes were supposed to dominate this league, but that's not happening. So yes, UCF, BYU comes out the victor on this one. It was a real super good game, and the Cougs are 8-0. All right, guys, that's just my opinion here on Just Justin. And if you really liked the video, give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And also, subscribe to the channel because I've got more videos coming out here. All right, guys,
Yeah.
I really appreciate you. And until the next video, I will see you later. Bye. And go Cougs.